Hello and welcome to Seoul, South Korea. I'm Jack Harris. This is Dylan Hernandez. It's Dodger Debate on LA Times Sports. Dylan, first, how was your flight? How was the travel out here? You've been on this side of the world for a while. You went to Japan first. How's the travel been for you?
Well, it was fine, except for the fact I've been a little bit under the weather, which is why my voice just sounds terrible
great
right now. I feel great because you brought me American medicine.
That's true.
You know, Japanese medicine is actually very weak.
Not strong enough?
No, it's been led to a lot of debates, speaking of debates, between my mother, who was a nurse in Japan, and my brother, who's a medical doctor in the United States. And my brother's his liberal prescription prescribing habits has very much upset my mother and led to some shouting matches at home. So, oh man, they're going to be so pissed when they see this.
So the reason we're here is because of baseball. The Dodgers are opening their season with 2 games against the San Diego Padres next week. They'll play 2 exhibition games before that. Obviously, there's a lot of storylines surrounding this team going into the year, but none bigger than Shohei Ohtani, who got quite the media reception here today. They had an introductory press conference for him. You obviously know a lot more about the Japanese press corps, the international attention around him. What did you make of that scene and just kind of what we've seen with the attention surrounding Ohtani this entire spring overall?
Yeah, you know, he's now just not a star of Japan, right? He's a star of all of Asia, you know. And that's been kind of an interesting evolution, I think, you know, as we've kind of seen over the years, you know, where 20 years ago, Japan, Korea, and baseball was kind of like India, Pakistan, and cricket, right? It wasn't. It was pretty heated, right? And so, you know, obviously times change, and now we're kind of at the stage now where there's been a lot of cultural interchange. And yeah, you know, even here, he's still kind of by far the biggest story.
Yeah, what kind of reception do you think like he's going to get from the fans here? Just how important it is? Like you said, it's not his home country, but it's a place where he's clearly very popular. Like how big of a deal is this over here for baseball fans here to be able to see him in person?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big deal. I think also you're going to see, you know, just kind of outside the stadium when I was coming in to get my credential today, I heard a lot of Japanese, right? So my guess is, you know, we saw this a lot too, actually. You know, the last time I was actually in Korea was for the Winter Olympics. Yuzuru Hanyu, the very popular figure skater, you know, people are talking about how it's cheaper to watch him in Korea than it is in Japan. Now, at these prices, I don't know about that. But
talking about thousands of dollars for tickets.
Well,
it
is cheaper than flying to the United States, probably, right? Round trip, hotels, all that type of stuff. So I'm guessing there's going to be a decent amount of Japanese people here too. So yeah, you know, that's kind of going to be the fun part. Another kind of fun one today is we saw Mookie Betts take ground balls at shortstop before batting practice.
Yep.
Went back after he took his round of his rounds of batting practice. Was with Rojas out there a lot of times. I mean, why are they doing this, man?
So that's been a daily occurrence ever since the Dodgers decided last week to switch Gavin to second base after his struggles defensively to start the spring. They moved Mookie Betts to shortstop, the spot that he played growing up, that he played a little bit last year, but now is going to be taking on full time. To me, it seems like that. The extra time he's spent out there, the amount of energy he's put into trying to master that position, that is a positive in some ways. He's clearly attacking this change of role. He seems open to doing it, and he's talked a couple times about the self-belief he has in himself that he can handle it and the help he's gotten so far. On the flip side, there's a reason he's out there spending as much time as he is at that position. There's a reason that the Dodgers didn't just decide to put him at shortstop entering the spring. It's not his natural position. It's a spot that is as demanding as almost any other on the diamond, even compared to second base, right? At second base, you can lob some throws to first. You can not take plays off, but you can get away with maybe a little more inconsistent fundamentals. At shortstop, every throw has to be hard. Your footwork has to be right. You have to be the guy who's aligning the rest of the infield. He's got the pitch comm in his ear now. There's a lot more responsibility that goes with this. It can work. This is a guy who was a 6-time Gold Glover, a 7-time Gold Glover in right field for a reason, who transitioned to second base on a mostly full-time basis last year and did pretty well there for a reason. The Dodgers are confident enough in just his overall athleticism to be able to pull this off. That said, this is a pretty risky thing in my view. Like, you're putting your best player in a position where he could potentially fail. You're putting him in a defensive spot that if he doesn't play well, you're going to have to try to rearrange things again going into the season. And I think as far as the on-field part is concerned, that is the thing I'm going to be watching closest in these 2 games and in the first couple weeks of the season, because it is such a pivotal part of the way this team is built now. and it could go so many different ways, both good and bad. Is this something you would do if you were running the team?
Well, because here's the thing. Like, this goes back to something I wrote at the beginning of spring, is that, there have been times when I think he's kind of, put on this, too cool for school air. I think this guy really cares, right? And we're seeing that because he knows that he needs to, to your point, he doesn't want to be embarrassed, right? And he probably even wants to excel at this, right? My guess is that deep down somewhere, he's even thinking, yeah, I'm going to win a Gold Glove.
He's said that publicly, yeah.
Show all these guys, right? Now, the problem with this is, with Mookie Betts, so much of the conversation over the years has been about his stature. Does he wear down over time, right? What's happening in October. Man, he took a lot of grounders today.
A lot.
I am just kind of...
And that's been a daily thing since the switch has been made.
My concern would just be, given what he means to you, why are they even doing this, right? Because to me, this is more about, why are they so hung up on Gavin Lux, right? It would just seem so much easier, put Rojas at short, Betts at second, and I'm guessing I'm not saying anything remotely original here. Are they just trying to extract some trade value out of Lux at this point? And if it is, what are you going to get from him at this point? What is it really worth, again, potentially sacrificing Mookie Betts? And I know they have Freddie Freeman now. I know they have Ohtani, so they have, no other team has three guys like this in their lineup. That doesn't mean you should take one of these guys for granted. That kind of feels what they're doing a little bit.
And that part I agree with you on. I think the way I read this situation is a couple things. One, this is a front office that, as we've talked about a lot over the years, doesn't like to admit mistakes. And I think with this situation, for all the other good things they did this offseason, they were publicly supporting Gavin Lux during the course of the winter. Behind the scenes, they were also evaluating external shortstop options. It's been an open secret now for a while that they have interest in Willy Adames of the Milwaukee Brewers, who's a free agent after this year and was a guy who seemed like he might get traded this winter, but nothing came together. And instead, the Dodgers went into spring saying, hey, Gavin Lux is our guy at shortstop. We're backing him. We think he's recovered from the knee injury well. And to have that go as poorly as it did, as quickly as it did, again, I think it's one of those things that you don't want to admit you were wrong on Lux. I don't think they want to give up on him entirely. The one thing that people across Dodger camp have been saying is that his bat has looked really good this spring. I think the best version of the Dodgers lineup offensively is one that still has Gavin Lux in it. But yeah, it's really hard to look at this and not get hung up on the risk of it, on the added variables you're throwing into the season, and to do it to your best player. And he still is, I think, their best player, even with Ohtani right now. As long as Ohtani's a DH only, Mookie Betts is as pivotal as anybody on this team. I see the some of the logic for doing it, but it comes with so many risks that it's really hard, I think, to not be nervous about this if you're a Dodger fan or a Dodger official going into the year.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of flabbergasted, honestly, given how much money they spent, right? Because we were talking, before this, about the pitching staff, right? In the past, we've talked about this, where it just seems very kind of high ceiling, low floor type deal. I didn't even really think about this situation, but,
right.
Now, the moment it started happening, though, you kind of were like, oh, yeah, I forgot. Muncy's not very good at third, and now they got this hole at short. For all the positives and kind of exciting things that this team has going, they sure left some pretty massive holes.
And it's something that we've talked about, with the entire roster this offseason, is that, for spending $1 billion+ and getting Ohtani and getting Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Tyler Glasnow, there's still a lot of different holes that you can poke in the construction of this team in ways that, not that the year can go wrong. I think it'd be a shock if this team wasn't really good, wasn't winning the NL West, and wasn't in a strong position going into the postseason. But again, for as much money as they spent, to still have some of these questions, it's just another one of these storylines to watch going into the year. Is Tyler Glasnow really going to stay healthy and be an ace? Is Yoshinobu Yamamoto really going to be able to live up to a $325 million contract? There's reasons for all the optimism that's around this team, but there's also, I think, a lot of questions that they're going to have to answer going into the year.
And then they could very well end up in the same position they were last year, heading into the postseason, where you knew when that regular season ended, that team had no chance of winning the World Series. And again, guys go down. No, they might not have like a rotation at that point.
And the pitching, I think longer term, is still kind of the bigger concern there if things go poorly. I'm not sure if I'd go quite to the point where, again, I think it's really unlikely that this team is not going to be looked at as a true World Series contender by the time we get to October. But the fact that you can kind of visualize the ways things could go wrong, the way that they might have to try to move some things around, whether it's shortstop, whether it's the rotation during the year. To me, it's more of just like an interesting thing to watch how they handle, but it could go sideways too, which is why going into the year here, starting with these two games, seeing these two pitchers, I think, for 2 games halfway around the world, you're going to get to learn a little bit about this team and where they're at from these 2 games that are coming up next week.
Yeah, well, I don't have the answers for these guys. Maybe the good folks of Reddit do. Our producer here, Mark Potts, I think solicited some questions from Jack's favorite online forum.
Yeah, really nice questions, I'm sure, especially the ones pertaining to you.
What do we got, Potsy?
The Dodgers seem more skilled on paper than they ever had before. With that said, what are the biggest areas of improvement that management and coaches are still trying to work on?
That's the shortstop position. It's sort of figuring out how the pitching staff's going to look over the course of the year. It's, seeing how the top 3 in the lineup come together, the way they've positioned them.
Will be fun.
With Shohei Ohtani in the 2-hole. I think it's the shortstop and defense as a whole, and then it's the health of the
Where are you on
rotation.
third base? I noticed you said shortstop.
I think
Oh, that's right. Muncie talked to you guys today.
But the defense
fine.
entirely.
It's fine. He's a friend of the program. We'll let it go for right now.
That's part of it, right? Is like you have a guy in Max Muncy who was very inconsistent, probably put it nicely, defensively last year. Gavin Lux at second, even when he moved over to second at the end of spring, he still had a couple errant throws and still looked a little unsettled there. You have in right field, Jason Hayward is a really good right fielder, but he's only going to be playing there half the time. You got to figure out who's going to platoon with him there and how that's going to come together. And then even with the catchers, they have to learn a whole new pitching staff, including one guy who doesn't speak the same language as them. So those are kind of a lot of the things I think, as you come into the year, you're looking at and that we don't know how it's going to play out yet, and that they're going to have to kind of learn about as the season goes on.
Donald-Duck23 would like any Sheehan updates.
So Emmett Sheehan stayed back in Arizona. He's going to start the year on the injured list. He had started his ramp up at the start of spring, threw a couple bullpens, threw one with Shohei Ohtani actually standing in at the plate for some of his pitches. But he started feeling some body soreness, some discomfort in his shoulder. He doesn't have a set timeline right now. I think what you'll see with him is they'll slowly ramp him back up. He had started playing catch and long toss before they left from Arizona. He's still somebody that long term this year is going to be very much part of their plans because of having guys like Yamamoto and James Paxton, who the team is going to try to manage their workloads a little bit. Guys like Emmett Sheehan, Gavin Stone, Michael Grove are going to have important roles on this team and pitch a lot of innings, I'd expect. He's not going to be ready for the start of the year, but I think you're still going to see plenty of him as long as he continues to recover well from the thing that popped up this spring.
I love the behind-the-scenes stuff. What's Dylan's favorite moment of messing with Andy McCullough back in the day?
I'll tell you my least favorite one. We were at Wrigley Field, and he gets a nosebleed, and it won't stop, right? He can't stop, bleed.
This is during the game?
This is during the game. So he leaves. The trainer sends him to the hospital.
The Dodgers trainer?
He went to meet the Dodgers trainer downstairs, sends him to the hospital, and he comes back, and I'm thinking, oh, he's fine, right? No, he couldn't write a gamer that day. I wrote the gamer and the column, and I'm kind of yeah, so not Bulldog material exactly, right? He kind of Max Scherzer that one.
When you're on the shelf, you're on the shelf.
No, you're not. No, you would have taken the bullet. No bloody knows. Yeah. To this day, actually, when that's the picture that shows up on my thing when he rings me.
There you go.
It's a thing with Kleenex in his nose.
And that wasn't worth having to write the one extra gamer?
No, because I had a migraine myself.
Well, see, then you should have pulled it too.
Well, but
could have if you pulled out, Andy would have had to write.
Well, this is what happens, right? So it's Scherzer pulls out, Buehler pitches on short rest, gets hurt, and then the other guy goes down to make money.
So did you get hurt from this whole situation?
Well, the other guy went on to go right? The other guy left us and made a lot of money. He's publishing a book, by the way, on Clayton Kershaw that's coming out.
True.
I've read it.
Nice.
It's very good. Make him more money, that I will not get.
So you didn't trick him with news or anything? Like, I got a call from Dylan this spring. I was at the driving range. He goes, "Oh, did you hear about Ohtani?"
Oh, that's right.
2-minute heart attack.
Okay, so yeah. So actually, Adam Kilgore, the Washington Post, and I, we were in, what city were we in? We were in Atlanta for one of the bowl games. It was Alabama. They kicked the crap out of Washington.
Okay.
And when Lane Kiffin got himself fired. But we're walking around, and the Wi-Fi in that city is horrible.
Okay.
And so it's like we're trying to find a place to go watch the Ronda Rousey fight, I think. And so it's just like, let's call Andy, right? I'm sure he's by his computer. It's 3 hours behind us. I call him, and at the last minute, I just had a change of heart. I go, "Hey, you hear about Puig?" And he just I just hear silence on the other line. I'm like, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, the end of that sentence could have gone a lot of different ways.
It could have.
Dylan is an obvious troll, exchanging credibility and journalistic respect for clicks and money. Why does a respectable newspaper actually employ someone like that?
I'm just glad
Troll.
somebody said it.
Troll. I'm a troll for truth. What does that mean, troll?
Dylan Hernandez, troll for truth.
Oh, I'm sorry, your baseball team's not perfect. Oh, maybe Andrew Friedman's not quite as smart as you think he is. Oh, I'm so sorry. Jesus, man, go find something else to worship if you guys are looking for, if you.
So this is a running thing, both with fans and people that work for the team. So it came as a big surprise to people when you wrote a very good column explaining the context of Shohei Ohtani's marriage announcement this spring. I had 3 people at camp that day come up to me. Wow, I actually learned something from that Dylan column. I usually never say that. So see, he's making strides.
I want to know how average Koreans feel about the Dodgers and MLB. Will they follow the team after this?
Chan-Ho Park was the first Korean player to play in the major leagues. He was a Dodger. I think, because of that, the ties kind of go back quite a ways. Hyun-Jin Ryu pitched for the Dodgers. Probably right now, right? The Padres have 2 popular Korean players. Yeah, I think Ohtani, we saw, very popular here. And as far as they will follow MLB, this is kind of one thing too, though, that I think people quite have to understand, right? These games go off at weird times. And kind of I wrote when I went, just in Hokkaido, where Shohei Ohtani used to play. He's been gone for 6+ years now. And yes, they still kind of follow him, but it's happening on the other side of the world. They don't really watch the games now. It is front page news every day, but it feels, the term that's it's a commonly used term in Japanese, right? Kind of like a being above the clouds. You don't feel like you can quite reach them. These countries have their own leagues, right? And that's what they watch, and those are the teams they cheer on. So yeah, I do think they will, they'll follow the Dodgers in terms of hey, how are they doing? How's Ohtani doing? But as far as the day-to-day stuff goes, I don't even know what team plays in the stadium, but whatever team it is, I'm sure.
The Heroes.
The Heroes?
Yeah.
I don't know if I just exposed the fact that I know nothing about Korean baseball, but anyway, my point is I'm pretty sure that they'll just cheer on, their local teams for the most part.
Not a question, so they didn't follow the instructions, but they commented, "I guess I didn't realize that the LA Times was still in business."
Well, I'm glad it is.
How is Plaschke to work with?
He's honestly a tremendous teammate.
Yes, he is.
He will, in some ways, now that I'm a columnist myself, I resent the, example that he set, where he's when he's done writing,
too high a bar.
He will run quotes for you. He does
will.
stuff that you would usually ask interns to do, And now I've turned into Jack's translator. I'm his ASAP Sports now.
You should have forgotten how to speak Japanese.
I know. It's now I feel obligated to do this but that is the, and look, I'll say this, whatever issues have been going on in our place for some time, right? Mostly economically forced. I do think the staff gets along very well. And I think it starts at the top, really, right? And the guy at the top is Bill Plaschke. And, so no, he's wonderful to work with. He's hilarious. He tries to go out with us at night.
Yeah.
I'm getting to that age, honestly, where I'm starting to be I don't know if I can hang anymore.
If you can do as well as Plaschke does in those settings, 15, 20 years from now,
Yeah.
I'd be impressed. But yeah, I echo everything Dylan says. Yeah, during my brief period of unemployment this offseason, he was an amazing support. So yeah, he's, for a guy who is as, famous as he is in this profession, and you see on TV and all these other things, when I started the paper as a 20-year-old intern, he could not have been a more welcoming person and presence, and really the captain of our sports team for sure, to use a cliche there. So, all right, well, we're going to do another one of these after the 2 games next week. There's going to be a lot, I'm sure, to follow along between now and then, which you can do so at latimes.com, which does exist, as does our print product too, if you want that. We should have a Shohei Ohtani special section coming at some point in the next couple days too, The Journey of Shohei, which I think will be an interesting read. So follow along in all these ways. Thank you guys for watching. For Dylan, I'm Jack. This is Dodger Debate.